Sleeping is a beautiful thing, isn't it? You know, when you wake up from a night of sleep and you feel absolutely amazing and you actually had enough sleep, you didn't wake up and you feel so great. Unfortunately, 50% of adults don't have a very good night's sleep. A lot of people have problems falling asleep or problems staying asleep. They wake up many times, or sometimes it's after they wake up in the morning, they've slept, but they didn't get a good sleep. So I'm starting a sleep series. So it's going to be a series of multiple blogs, and we're going to figure out everything that there is to know about the brain and the sleep and how to help you sleep better. That's technically what we're going to be doing. So in part one, we're going to be talking about anxiety, about weight gain, about different problems that could be caused by lack of sleep and how it works in the brain. In part two, we're going to see all the 5 stages of a sleep cycle, so that can help you understand how sleep actually works, right? And part three, we're going to talk about, part three here, we're going to talk about dreaming, about snoozing, about napping. So all kinds of things that are related to sleep that will be very interesting to find out. Part 4, I'll give you 4 techniques to sleep better. So 4 techniques that you can start using. And those are the techniques that I use with my clients, because that's the very first thing that I do when I have a new client is I ask, how's your sleep? Because a lot of people self-diagnose themselves with a whole bunch of stuff, and they say, oh, I think I have anxiety, I think I'm this, and I think I'm that, and I have problems in my marriage, and I have problems with my finances, I can't keep a job, or I'm not good as an entrepreneur. And the very first thing we need to do is to fix the sleep, because maybe you're just sleep deprived, because everything else is so much better when you have a good night's sleep, isn't it? All right. So in part number 5, I'll be talking about different tools that you can use to prevent bad sleep, okay? So before sleeping. In part 6, it's going to be while you're tossing and turning in the middle of the night, what you can do to actually fall asleep, okay? So it's the during part. And then the last part, part 7, we're going to talk about after. So what do you do to cope if you had a bad night's sleep and you have a very important meeting or a project or a very important day, okay? So let's dig right away into part 1, why sleep is important. Well, research shows that bad sleep would lead to low mood and anxiety. Lack of sleep is triggered by many different factors. And what it does to the brain is that it affects the amygdala. And when the amygdala is affected, then we become, the amygdala becomes 60% more active than normal when we are sleep deprived. So it's very important to know, because the amygdala makes you overthink, right? And it causes anxiety because these thoughts are not regulated by the medial prefrontal cortex. So, and the medial prefrontal cortex job is to regulate the amygdala. And if it affects the medial prefrontal cortex, the amygdala doesn't get regulated. So that's why there's 60% more thoughts that come into your brain that you could worry about. Remember that the amygdala is what alerts you and makes you panic in case there would be a lion. Think about our ancestors, right? That they needed to fight with the lions and their predators, right? So that's why the amygdala is there. It's our fight or flight response. So if it is 60% more active, that's why we're like panicking for anything when we are sleep deprived. It also impacts our cognitive performance. Some scientists measuring sleepiness has found that it is the same, spending a whole night without sleeping, you know what we used to do when we were younger? Spending a whole night without sleeping is like being legally drunk. So it's very important to know that even if you don't drink, you spend a whole night working on a project, the next day it will be as if you would be legally drunk. So it really affects our alertness and our concentration. It's more difficult to focus and to pay attention. So you're more easily confused, and that impairs your ability to perform tasks that will require for you to be reasoning or going through a complex sequence or thoughts. So sleepiness will also impair your judgment. So not a good idea to make big decisions if you're sleep deprived, okay? The next thing we need to know is that it makes us very foggy, and we are very impacted by our focus and our concentration. So somehow you can't really concentrate. It impacts your memory, your retaining capacity as well. So if you're staying up all night to study for something, well, not a good idea because you can't retain information. It impacts your long-term memory, and you are more prone to mistakes as well. And sleep deprivation also contributes to weight gain, unfortunately. So a lack of sleep has long been linked to obesity. So there's even a new study that suggests that, of course, if you are staying up late, there's more chances of you snacking. But that's not really the primary reason why people gain weight when they have lack of sleep. It's more that there's compelling evidence to date that when you have a disrupted sleep, it alters your metabolism and it boosts your ability to store fat. So if your ability to store fat is boosted when you have a disrupted sleep, that's why you are wanting to sleep better, right? Because we don't want to store fat that we don't need, correct? It also weakens our immune system. So a lack of sleep can lead to a lot of other major health issues. Gaining weight is not a big deal, but cardiovascular problem is a big deal, because sleep deprivation will link to a lot of chronic diseases, according to the Center for Disease Control. So there's diabetes, cardiovascular disease, obesity that we mentioned, and depression as well. So next week, we will be back with our part 2. In our part 2, we're going to look at the 5 stages of a sleep cycle and how sleep works. So I will see you there.